A wonderful good day wherever in the world you are. If you are in Australia, then it's good evening. If you're in Europe, it's good morning. If you're in the States, it's good night, I think. So a huge welcome from me. And my name is Gaby Burt. I'm Managing Director for the Journey organization worldwide. And I have been with Brandon and the Journey for 25 years now, and in this capacity, having seen people change, transform their lives around the world over the years. Brandon is an expert in emotional healing, and if you have never heard of her, then I can highly recommend that you listen to her personally. This little program called Real Talk was brought about because we wanted to let more people know about the journey tools, especially at a time like this. What the journey is, what the journey does. It is a self healing method, something that kind of brings people right back home to themselves, helps us to be authentic without having to wear any masks. And it's a process work that always repeatedly helps us to open into a presence that is much more than this, our physical form, our body, this that we can conceive with our mind. It's called infinite intelligence, source, love, universe, God. It has so many names. But Brandon has, through her own healing story, uncovered this method, and for 27 years now shared that around the world in live seminars. And then COVID came, and all of a sudden here we are online, and we have the amazing opportunity to share these same tools in an online environment where people don't need to travel anymore, where people don't need to sit in a hotel room or a seminar room anymore. They can actually do this from the comfort of their own home. Why we're doing this little program, Real Talk, is we wanted to make more people aware of this work, and also something very, very special we're doing this month. But as I'm talking here, I also wanted to just ask you to just kind of come hop in the room and let us know who you are, where you're from. We kind of, sometimes we don't quite know who is joining us, but maybe you can just say, hi, I'm Karen, I'm from Switzerland, I'm from here or there. Would love to see who we have on this call today. And just so we know, we're not just talking to ourselves. And then there's always the recording as well, but it would be lovely to see you and who you are and where you're from. And, coming back to the reason why we're doing this, it's also called, when it's announced as it's me and the guest. And so today I have the beautiful great good fortune to welcome our special guest, Yollana Shore. She is someone who's been with us with the journey for over 20 years now. She's been a journey practitioner. She has her own coaching business, and from the end of last year, she is also working with the journey full on as co-host and presenter. And so let me please bring Yollana into the room so you can see her. And as this is happening, good morning, Yollana. So beautiful to see you. Thank you. You're still muted, by the way.
Hello, Gaby. Thank you.
Hi,
It's so
good
great to
morning.
be here across the
Thank
globe.
you.
It's evening here and your morning there. So,
Oh,
yeah.
wonderful. I'm just kind of sidetracked because I'm seeing faces and oh my goodness, I have Botswana, I have Czech Republic, somewhere it's cold outside. So we've got people joining us from different parts of the world. It's beautiful. So thanks, Yollana, for sharing this little special place with me that we came up with that we call Real Talk. And as you are my guest today, I'm just going to hand over to you a little bit and just see what arises for you that you can share and want to share with our group here.
Oh, thank you, Gaby. Well, certainly, you know, the journey has had a big impact on my life. And I can see some of the people who've joined us have attended some of our programs, and I'm guessing some are new. So welcome to both. And yeah, as you said, I actually started with the journey 22 years ago.
It's a long time ago. That's all I do know.
22 years ago. And I've felt incredibly blessed to have this method in my life. I'm aware that Brandon, who, as you said, is the founder of the journey, one of the things that she used to say, you know, her wish for the journey would be that it would be like a household healing tool. Like we have our home medicine cabinet that we go to if we need band-aids, you know, for if you get a cut and you know where to get the Panadol if you have a headache or something like this, you know. But the journey is an emotional healing tool, and it is so powerful and so easy to use and so accessible. Just to simply learn these skills means that you can have access to the journey in your home medicine cabinet, your sort of metaphorical home medicine cabinet. And that vision of Brandon's has really, you know, struck me because, and it's been meaningful to me because that's essentially what, you know, for the last 22 years, the journey has been for me. And so over that 22 years, for the first, when I started, I was just 20 years old. And I was beginning my journey of life, really. When you're 20, you're beginning your journey of life. And I'd actually experienced a miscarriage. And after that, when I came across the journey, I was at a time where I was like, I'd thought that I was going to become a parent, and this whole life was stretched out in front of me of what, you know, it's like the next 20 years had kind of, I thought this is what it's going to be. It's about becoming a mother. And when I had that miscarriage, suddenly it wasn't about that anymore. And it was like there was this blank page, and I thought, what actually am I, what am I doing? And that was actually when I stumbled across the journey and started to learn these tools. And I actually had a condition that meant that I had another 3 miscarriages after that. And the journey was so powerful for me. It eventually I was able to find a medical way, you know, to stop that from happening so that I could have, I have 2 beautiful children now. But what the journey did supporting me along that path was that I was able to go through those pregnancies and miscarriages, and they haven't weighed heavily on my heart. I haven't been stopped by the grief of them, as I've seen that has sometimes happened to people who've lost babies in that time. But I was able to really grieve and really let go and really to receive the blessings of each of those pregnancies, and then to just walk forward in my life, like, you know, going into the next phase and going with the changes of it. And it's funny to find myself telling that story now because it kind of reminds me of the last few years for all of us with the pandemic, and now what's been happening here in Australia. We had really intense floods, and with what's happening in Russia and Ukraine, it's like, you know, you can think you're going one way in life and suddenly you're going another. And how do you actually have that emotional resilience, that center inside yourself, that you can be still and at peace, even when these intense and sometimes harrowing changes happen in your life?
Yeah. Beautiful. Thanks so much, Yollana. Some of these things, I've known you for so long, but some of these things I didn't even know about you. But thank you for sharing that. And one of the reasons we are here and we brought this little program into being was that we wanted to share with people that we want this household medicine that we call the journey available to more people. And we know that there is that there are difficulties, there are challenges around. As you said, you know, Australia and biblical floods was a word that I had heard, never seen before. people in our age group have never experienced anything like it. Something is like that is happening in parts of South Africa right now as we speak. We've got this looming, threatening war situation in parts of Europe that actually can easily include the whole world. So God knows where it's all going. But in order to find the still point, the eye of the needle of the storm, and be at peace right here, is what is so important for all of us. And what we did in the journey, we sat together and was, what can we do to make it more accessible, more available? So we have events next May in different dates. And these events, we've actually slashed the price crazy. We have never done this before, but we've taken 70% off, which makes the Journey Intensive, which is a 3-day event, €149. The normal price for this is $497. So if you yourself or you know anyone who struggles with depression, with illness, with an emotional issue, with relationship, with anything, even if they don't struggle with anything, just to come home to themselves and to find this deep well of peace inside, that is what's on offer. And we're doing this once and once only, and we wanted to shout it from the rooftops. So there is a link that's posted here, and it takes you to that page. And on the top, it says the Journey Intensive, 3 days that will change your life. And we're not making this up. It does. For €147 for Australia. And because we are having Australian audience here too, Australia is 239 Australian dollars for the same package. So you just, once you get to the booking link, use the code fearless22 and it will reduce the price automatically. For those of you, if we have anyone here that already has attended the Journey Intensive, please come and reset. There is a very special code for you. You can get it at 10% of the full cost. So please, we just want our rooms packed. This is not a business call. This is a call for you, for everyone out there, to take those tools, to really take them and add them in your medicine cupboard at home, so that you, when you have an issue of, as Yollana so beautifully said, something that would create huge grief in your life. There is financial worries, there are relationship issues, there are, somebody's death, there is fear of losing my job, there is fear of whatever, There are so many issues, and the journey can always bring us home. And very often these issues are actually, even though they may seem on the surface connected to what's going on right now, very often, or pretty much 100% of the time, they actually link to something that we've experienced in the past. And when we clear that issue out in the past, somehow our present awareness, our present day life changes. And not only our life, but that of the people around us changes too. And that is the huge gift. So this is not just about us, even though it is, but this is also about the people around you, your children, your families, your colleagues, your friend, and the world at large at the end of the day. Because if there were more of us doing this work, then I have an absolute certainty that our world would be a better place. So I just wanted to put that one in. I wanted to intercheck this one. And I want to hand back to Yollana, because I think your story can, and the other thing I want to say, please, if you have a question, if there is something going on in your life, please type it here and we address it right here. So we did this a few days ago for the first time. We had some beautiful questions. And so please feel free, bring it here into this room, and we address it as best as we can and let you know what the journey is capable of. Yollana, back to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Gaby. I mean, I just want to add to highlight what you said. Like, this is an incredible offer from the journey, and I really thank you, the generosity of it, because this is literally a 3-day retreat, like a 3-day workshop where you actually learn how to do this healing method for yourself and all of the skills to do that. You not only learn the skills, but you also swap the process with someone else. So you actually receive it 3 times over the, like it's we've been running this workshop for so many years, and it just works so well, and it's incredible value. So I'm so grateful to you guys for sharing it at this really amazing price at this time. So yeah, and I was just thinking, like, well, you know, of other examples. I mean, there are I could tell so many stories of people that I've worked with as clients who've actually even had physical healing happen as a result of clearing out the emotional root cause of the issues that were going on in their life. But just on a very, you know, we'd called this talk Real Talk, and I was thinking about just on a very practical, everyday kind of thing that maybe some people who are listening can relate to. So my ex-husband and I divorced about 5 years ago, and it was you know, we'd been together for 17 years at that point, and we had young children together, but we were going in different directions. And I, you know, real talk, would not tell you that it was all pretty. There were some really uncomfortable and even ugly moments in that process for us, 100%, because the journey isn't something that takes away the reality of life. It's something that gives you a deeper capacity to deal with it. But what I can say is that going through that process, you know, we were able to really use the tools and come to this place of really deep respect and even forgiveness and healing through the process of our divorce, and really commit to the co-parenting that we do together now. And it you know, there was this moment that really kind of expresses how, you know, how I guess beautifully we did that. And I can say that humbly, but truthfully, I can say that it's something I'm proud of, is my relationship with my ex and how we have built our family together. So he has a new partner, and a few years ago they had an engagement ceremony at their house on land that I'd used to live on, you know, with him. And I was invited to this ceremony, and so was my new partner. And during the ceremony, they did something. It's an old tradition from Europe, which is called a hand fasting. So it's like when you tie a ribbon around the hands of the people who are getting engaged, and it symbolizes their commitment to each other. And so they did their hand fasting, and after that, they actually invited our 2 kids into the circle, because the kids are, you know, also in a way marrying his new partner. And they did a little hand fasting between all of them and the kids. And then they invited me and my partner into the circle. And we also did a hand, you know, they had these little ties for us as well. And, you know, we kind of all had a big hug and sharing at that moment, and honoring of each other and each of our roles in this family. And it was such a profound moment. Like, there were people who were present who just said they had shivers, they were crying, just to see that this was possible, that people could, you know, instead of having a really difficult estranged kind of relationship, were able to work through the challenges of divorce and then of new partners and shared parenting. They actually have a new child now, so we're into that whole journey as well, with having, you know, a new half brother in our family. And, you know, it's not to say that other people's stories will be the same as that if they do the journey or anything like that, but that I can honestly say that it was all of the journey tools over the years that I'd used them that had helped me to ground in those values and understand the power of forgiveness and the importance of really um, of staying open to what is possible beyond the ideas we have in our head of what a family should look like, or even what a divorced family should look like, but being open to what's possible between us when we come from love. And so that's, just another example of something that I really do credit the journey as a key support in being able to help me create the family that I have now.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Yollana, as you're speaking, I mean, this is one of the very issues that kind of inspired some of what we're doing here, because I just came recently back from I originally come from Austria, and for the first time during this COVID time, with all the traveling that we used to do before, traveling stopped, and I actually hadn't been to Austria for 2.5 years. My homeland, my siblings, their children. So for the first time in all this time, I went back to Austria, and I was kind of shocked. Well, I wasn't shocked. I'm still in love with everyone, with the country. It's such a beautiful country to go to. But one of the things that I became aware of was I felt like there were so many challenges in people's lives, and obviously the pandemic or COVID hasn't made it any easier. So there have been fears of job wise, am I going to be okay? But there is also the relationship struggles, and I kept hearing so many conversations where the blame is put on the other person. It's like this, he did this and blah 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 blah, and it became this kind of blaming. And I do know from the journey, one of the things that we would ask ourselves with the tools that we have, what if I couldn't blame anyone for what's happening right now? And then you can really feel the potency, the depth of the issues that are going on in your own life, taking responsibility and fully feeling. We're not saying it's anyone's fault for what's happening, but just blaming outer circumstances, blaming the rising petrol prices, blaming the Russian president, blaming whatever, blaming the floods. It all takes away from the immensity of the feelings that are going on inside of us. So if we can find a reason out there that is to blame for what's really going on in our life, then we actually we lower the kind of sensations and feelings and emotions that are really here. So it's an avoidance game. And if we only had the tools and the courage, we could actually really meet sometimes a weakness, sometimes a helplessness, a vulnerability, a real, I don't know. And for everyone who is listening, it's actually okay. But one thing I do know is we cannot wish and hope and pray for world peace when there are families where 4 people inside one family aren't talking with each other because it's a very, very acrimonious divorce,
Yeah.
and it's in so many places. I know that these last 2 years the divorce rates have gone haywire. I know that lawyers have never been so busy. These are articles written about in newspapers. So these conflicts are in so many families. And yet I'm not saying that everybody needs to do a ceremony with putting a ribbon, but coming to a place of wholeness inside themselves and an agreement of how we can consciously what's the beautiful word, consciously uncouple. That would be a something that would be one way of contributing to our world peace, because it really does start with us. It really starts right here in our homes first, and then we can kind of look a little bit further afield. You spoke about your relationship issue. I grew up in a family with depression. You know, I was born in 55, and this was like following the Second World War. My father was a soldier. So many things never got talked about. And my parents lost their second child when he was 7 weeks old, and I was the third child. And my mum fell into a depression at that point, and I grew up in not just with a mother who was depressed, but a depressed household. It's like it kind of became a very, very grey world as I grew up, and then trying to make sense of life and happiness and joy. It's like it was very, very, very strange. And I think when I got to age 40, was the time when I came to the journey, that's really when I started to uncover some of these old wounds, these old issues. And by clearing them from inside of me, clearing my old issues, it did have a healing impact and effect on all of our family. Even though my mother, when she died at 86, she still was on her depression medication, and I know with absolute doubt that she could feel the love that was there for her, that it kind of penetrated through this thick wall of antidepressants that she was on pretty much for all of her life. So there are so many different stories that we all have experienced of, people healing from physical issues, from illnesses, from as little as we had a woman post last week. She was a nurse, and she said she did a journey intensive, I think 13 years ago, and she is a nurse. And when she came to the journey, she had one of the problems that she had, her feet. She had a pain in her legs and feet, and nobody could figure out what it was. And she came to the journey intensive, which was 2 days, a 2-day workshop, and she uncovered the root cause of it, cleared it out, and it has never been back. So this pain just disappeared from the very beginning. And from as little as that to people's eyesight being restored, people's hearing being restored, people having heart issues. Even if we just speak about the heart, how many broken hearts are out there? It's not just that heartbreak happens and nothing happens to our body. It's like whatever happens out there, it kind of happens inside as well. And so there are so many things. Somebody's just posted something very long.
There's a spam post in there, I think. So
Okay.
Not relevant.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's beautiful what you share, Gaby. There's a lot there, but one of the things that strikes me is about, as you're speaking about the vulnerability to actually feel these things that are underneath.
Yeah.
And what I have come to understand so clearly is that in our culture generally, that we're so focused on moving away from our so-called negative emotions. So we're okay to feel happiness, we're okay to feel peacefulness, we're okay to feel curiosity, say. But then there's this band of emotions, like we don't want to feel anger, or we don't want to feel sadness, or we don't want to feel fear. And it was through the journey that I discovered that when we are fully present with an emotion, that it only lasts for 60, maximum 90 seconds, sometimes 30, and then it dissipates. And when I'm sharing this with like new clients, what I often explain to them is like, our emotional bodies are like a river, and we're constantly having, like, throughout the day, we'd be feeling relaxed, and then a few moments later we're feeling a bit annoyed about something, and then we're feeling happy again, and then we're feeling a bit anxious about something. And it's like these emotions come up, and then they're just flowing into the river of life, and then another emotion comes up and it just flows into the river of life. And that's a healthy emotional state, and it's constantly changing like a river.
Yeah.
But when we have either this cultural conditioning that tells us, no, don't feel that, or if we have an experience that's some kind of trauma, like you're speaking of, where it's actually more than we can bear in that moment, more than we can emotionally process in that moment. And our biological system is designed to actually shut the emotion down for us for a moment so that we can cope through that, that moment of survival. And it kind of tucks it away. So it's like we either sweep it under the carpet or lock it in the cupboard or something. But then it's like when you lock an emotion in the cupboard like that, it ends up like trying to get out. It's banging on the door. And then instead of having a 90-second relationship with this emotion, we end up having a relationship with it for days or weeks or months or years, because we've kind of locked it in our, essentially when I say cupboard, we're talking about our physical body. We're holding it there, and it's walking with us under the surface all the time. And so the journey does give us this safety and this presence and this understanding that we can open that door and we can let out the emotions that we've held there. And it's like the river, we can just be present with it. And even if it's devastation, and even if it's terror, like I saw someone had written in the comments, they would like to overcome their fear of death. And the process for that is simply facing the fear of death. And you can do it with support, you can do it with a practitioner or in one of our workshops, and actually allowing that fear to be felt and flow into the river. Because even if it's rage, like no matter how intense the emotion is, if you can be present with it, it doesn't last very long. And so we actually all have this capability, which is why it can be like a home medicine cabinet. It's why it is accessible to all of us once we learn the tools, is if we can just be willing to be present with these emotions, we can release them out of our system, and then we become available to the rest of life. Then we become available to our own peace, our own freedom, our own joy, our own whatever is naturally arising from us next, when we're not holding on to or being afraid of what we literally are just feeling in the moment. And the other thing is, that's really what frees up our awareness to deal with the real circumstances in life. Because often in those, if I use my example of with my ex-husband, if I could have focused on the issues, as you said, the examples of I'm blaming him or, the whole circumstance. But really all of that focus is all just taking the awareness away from, I don't want to feel unloved, and I don't want to feel afraid and insecure as I go through this process of separation. And when I could stop focusing on the outside and actually be present with those fears and feel the feelings I was afraid to feel, they don't have any power over me anymore. And then I'm available to actually deal with the relationship as it truly is, instead of through the filters of all the emotions that I can't face. If you follow what I'm saying. So it really creates so much more freedom and availability to literally show up in life.
Yeah. I'm thinking of an example of myself, actually, which, that was one of these life-changing moments. But as you were talking about the emotion that we didn't meet at the time and that knocking on the door, I was at the age of 6. I had an accident. Where actually my brother teased me, and I got so furious and so angry that I put my hand through a glass window. It was like blind. If I look back now, it was blind rage. And I just put my hand through it, 6 years old, and I cut my wrist so severely, dangerously, that in places the cut was deeper than the main artery. And I must have had 25 guardian angels with me, because where the artery was, the cut was literally a fraction of a millimeter less. So I made it, but it was a life-threatening situation. And this trauma that you mentioned, that you speak, is like, it's like this, and then there is a lid. And so what I learned in an instant, in a moment, is if I lose my temper, if I get angry, then I could either kill myself or others. that was something that stayed in my programming until I came to the journey, which then was 34 years later. And what actually happened in that time is that I was a very nice person. I didn't know what anger was, but I was totally shut down to any emotion that had anything to do with anger or rage, because there was a fear of death buried with it. And I didn't uncover that until I came to the journey. And what happens, what I did learn, and what I do know for absolute certain now, if there is anything that we are not addressing, like fear or terror or anger or rage, there is enthusiasm, there is passion, but our band of experiencing life as it is and emotions kind of gets very narrow, and then the joy is muted. Enthusiasm, what's that? It kind of, the life becomes a gray zone. And I really, if I look back my life, I was in a depression, but I would have never ever called myself that. I just made my life hunky-dory, and outer circumstances were influencing my life to make it somehow okay. But by the time I got to 40, it was pretty bleak and gray and almost dead on the inside. And so this is just, this is another one, an issue that I didn't walk around with in my life. I didn't walk around thinking that I did something wrong when I was 6 years old, but that's what kind of created a pattern in my life, and the journey was able to clear that. Somebody put a question up, and I don't know if you have read it.
There's another
it's,
long
it's one for you. It's marriage. I'll let you speak to that, Yollana.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's another long one, which is someone advertising their spellcasters from Africa. So it's another spam comment.
We don't want spellcasters from South Africa. So thank you very much. We have a beautiful journey. If anybody is listening, we have a beautiful, beautiful journey community in South Africa, and the journey has been firmly at home in South Africa since early 2000. So if anybody is listening from there, it's beautiful work. Beautiful. How are we doing time-wise today? We're doing really, really well. I just one more time really want to share how important it is for everyone, whether we have an issue that we are aware of or whatever it is. I mean, it is work that is grounded. It's nothing alternative, spiritual, la-di-la. This is very, very grounded, very basic, very down-to-earth work that can be used it's good for everyone. We use this work with children. We use it for adults. We use it for people in older people. It doesn't matter which point. We have journey practitioners who do one-on-one work, we do course work, and for the first time ever, we really felt that the world was in such a critical stage that we just want for more people to have these simple tools in their toolbox, in their medicine cupboard, and can start working on themselves, come home, and then create this peace that is real, not a pseudo peace that I sing myself into, but one that arises out of this moment. And if out of this moment fear and anger arises, that's okay too. As Yollana so beautifully said, it's emotions are like a river, they come and go. If we paid attention to them fully every time something happens, but we do have a judgment over this is okay to feel, this is not okay to feel. Men shouldn't cry, women shouldn't be angry, just something, and it's not like that. It's not like that. We're like human beings. We're human beings, and in openness, everything is allowed, everything is welcome. We didn't have any questions today. We just had spellcasters from South Africa. So, but there is, Yollana, any final words from you?
Well, I know that we've streamed this on Facebook in a couple of different places and YouTube, so it's hard to know who exactly from all those places has joined us, but I just do want to say thank you so much for spending the time with us this morning, this evening, wherever in the world you are. And yeah, and just to, for those of you who are already part of our community, we did have questions that our team has answered about how to come back and resit the events and things like that. But for those of you who are already part of our community and want to help us spread the word about this special, because we probably won't ever offer it again at this price. It's definitely a special for right now. Please do. And if you're in Australasia and want to speak with me personally about how we can continue to share this work in Australia and New Zealand, reach out and share. I'd love to hear from you. And I'm sure Gaby feels the same for, the rest of the world, that you can reach out to Gaby. And, I feel at this time that there's opportunities for us to partner with other presenters who are doing healing work or doing personal development work and who would like to share this work with their community. So if you're watching this and you think of someone who you think, I should get the journey and these other people together, then let us know, because that's just, time for us to share this work in a whole new way. And it's actually been really amazing to be part of the journey at this time, since we have gone fully online over the last few years. It's changed how we share the work, and it's kind of created more of a global community than we had before. And I more than ever feel myself to be part of a global movement. And, it's amazing. I'm going on and on here. I thought I was finishing up, but I've got more to say, obviously. But, one of the things that's really touched me is, that for our graduates, people who've done the Journey Weekend and know how to use the journey in their life, they've then gone on to join us in our My Journey community. And the My Journey community is for people from all over the world. So it means that we have people who did their journey intensive in other, parts of the world, and all of the English speaking, at least, are in the My Journey community and connecting there and sharing. And it's just an amazing experience to be part of a healing movement that's global like this. And so I'm having a moment of appreciating that, I think, and feeling grateful to be a part of this movement, and may it continue to spread in many, many ways beyond what we can even imagine right now.
Thank you, Yollana. And if I haven't said it loud and clear enough, Yollana is co-hosting all of the events that we offer in Australasia. So we offer 3 main time zones. So on the American time zone line, on the European time zone line, and the Australasian time zone line. So in May we have events in all the major time zones, and primarily in English. And I think the European one, we offer translation. I'm not quite sure, but definitely Czech, I think. So, and we've already had various events for Estonia. So even if you need it in a different language, please stay close and keep an eye on what we're doing, when we're doing it. It's profound work. It's life-changing. And somebody has said a near-death experience has made me come as a different.
Come back different. Yeah.
Is that normal? It probably would be. It probably would be. I don't know what different means to you, and I think that will be a longer conversation. If you want to chat with one of us, Sarah, please get in touch with somebody in the Journey or support@thejourney.com. You can always bring your questions, and one of our team will answer that if you're not sure. But
I can add something on that too, because I recently watched, I don't know if you know, Gaby, but there's a show on Netflix now called Life After Death with Tyler Henry, who's a Hollywood medium, and he does a lot of, talking to people who've passed away and helping them reconnect with their family who miss them. And one of the things that really struck me was that he often shared that in his experience, that as when people leave their bodies, they immediately connect with really essentially their higher self. So all the crap that we deal with in our life, in our personality, the sort of it's like we just when we die, and it's funny, this actual topic has come up twice in this conversation around fear of death and also near-death experiences. Like when we die, we actually let go of all of our physical bodies, but also a lot of our personality and identity, and we open into the love that we are and the truth that we are, and our real essence as beings. And when I was watching this show and hearing about what people were experiencing with Tyler and how the messages that he consistently received from the other side were coming from this higher place of love. And I just thought, gee, aren't we so lucky in the journey that we have an actual process that I've been using for 20 years that allows me to genuinely watch this and say, wow, I'm in contact with that place of love and I don't have to die to get there. I actually have been able to connect with this higher perspective. And, I'm not saying I'm a perfect human being by any means, but just that I know the pathway to my soul and to the part of me that is free of my personality. And so, Sarah, to me, it makes a lot of sense that you would come back different. And people who I know who've had near-death experiences, usually they're very life-changing because you do let go of all of the stuff that is your conditioning of your personality, who you thought you were, and are more in touch with your own essence of who you really are and what's really important. So just my 2 cents on that one.
Well, I think that's a beautiful way to end our today's program, Yollana, because heaven on earth is one of the things that we sometimes say. And when we are open into this presence, it is awareness itself. It is an infinite presence that you become aware. It always is. It doesn't come and go. It's just something that is. It's infinite, it's eternal, and that is actually in our essence who we are. And if the journey does one thing, it returns us to that. And then if we can live our life from here, make our decisions from here, communicate from here, then we be in good hands within ourselves, but we also have something to share to those around us. And if that ripple effect could kind of move out more and more, it would reach more and more people. And I think our world would be more open in this, rather than the kind of the strife that we're experiencing in so many families, communities, and parts of the world.
Yeah.
So on that note, I just want to say thank you so much, Yollana, for being here today, for really bringing your life and stories into today's program. And thank you everybody for joining us today. And I hope you learned something from the conversation that was going on. We called it Real Talk because it's how to apply this in real life, what it actually means. To me, what it means, my life over the last 25, 27 years now has become rich, has become whole, has become full. And I always can come back right here, even if the world goes crazy. Then I have a pole that I can rest in, a pool and a pole that I can rest in. And life can be very beautiful from right here. So on that note, I thank you very, very much, and love and blessings to everybody here. Thank you for joining us. As Yollana said, please share the news. Make sure you come back if you've done the work. If you haven't done the work, it's really, it's like a dinner out for 3 days, and you learn tools that will stay with you for the rest of your life. I promise. So thank you very much. And we're going to do this program again next week. So check on Facebook. I think it's Tuesday afternoon. Please come and join us. And I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much. Thank you, Yollana.
Thanks, Gaby.